Hi everyone, Dr. Chad here. This presentation I'm about to give was originally done for a Facebook event called Healthy and Ready for Anything. And that is a Facebook group that you can still join. It was a better part of 3-week event. Great presenters, great information that's all designed to empower. So I would encourage you to check that out. What I want to talk about today is the immune system from the context of the greater whole that is our bodies. The immune system is often spoken of as if it's mutually exclusive with the other organ systems. Ditto for its relationship to your health choices. That thought process reflects more than anything the lousy health education system in our society. Evidence to that can be found in all the statistical shortcomings of the American health system and in the lack of accountability to how we reached such a dire place with that system. The American health system has a foundational problem with its philosophy, you could say, which I think we've seen manifested in the fear-driven approach to combating this 2020 pandemic. An approach driven by a system that severely undervalues the human immune system's potential has predictably faltered. Dr. B.J. Palmer, the man responsible for shaping the chiropractic profession and the upper cervical brainstem focused specialty that I practice, once said about the allopathic mindset, quote, "A new disease is discovered, a new cure is developed. Soon that cure develops another sick disease for which another cure is needed. Man chases himself from one cure to cure the cure of the disease the cure produced. It's a case of the rat and rabbit farm, or a dog chasing his tail. Endless vicious circles, unbalancing disease with unbalanced cures, which produce another unbalanced disease, etc." End the Palmer quote. Now, I would like to use this platform, honestly, as an opportunity to promote what I'm for, far more so than I want to use it to promote what I'm against. But I think context is important, and to me the elephant in the room that needs to be identified when having a conversation about the interconnections between the immune system and your nervous system, or your immune system and your digestive system, and all of the other connections that largely get ignored in modern healthcare, is the fact that the people leading American healthcare themselves do not understand or seem to fully understand and grasp these interconnections, these interrelationships. Recent events have made it abundantly clear. Even some of the smartest disease experts in the world significantly underestimate the human body. And I believe it's because they've become so focused on disease that they've lost sight of the fact that disease is not random. Disease manifests in those vulnerable to it. Disease experts have become so dialed into treating what they study that they've lost sight of the innate inborn intelligence that the human body possesses. They've been the one and only prominent voice in the coronavirus conversation, and their voice has spoken nothing of the battle-tested human immune system and how to optimize it, while championing largely untested concepts like social distancing, lockdown, and universal masking as the only viable methods for successfully navigating this unprecedented situation. I think it's fair to suggest that a fundamental reappraisal is in order. For a moment, I'd like you to observe the hole in the electrical outlet nearest where you're sitting. It represents what we know through education, whereas the rest of the room represents just a fraction of the infinite found in nature and in the human body, which performed literally more chemical reactions just now than every experiment conducted by every scientist who has ever lived combined throughout history. Shouldn't we trust something that has that kind of inborn wisdom? Biological science offers mountains of evidence to the human body's dynamic capabilities in the face of all sorts of daunting circumstances and potential destructive agents. Yet the ratio of credit given versus the credit earned is skewed so far that most people, including disease experts, assume their bodies cower to invaders like viruses. And to be fair, they once did. But we're increasingly removed in the industrialized world from the days when infectious disease was among the leading causes of death. The baseline strength of the immune system since we separated the water supply for the bathroom and the water supply that we drink from has proven robust. In parts of the world where sanitation is still an issue, there's a greater prevalence of disease. Sanitation offered one of the earlier examples in modern history of the connection between the internal environment we keep and the immune system that protects it. When sanitation is poor, the internal environment is toxic, and the immune system often becomes overwhelmed. But if you improve sanitation and the internal environment is cleaner, thus allowing the immune system a more optimal set of conditions to thrive, then that's a game changer. To paraphrase Dr. Albert Schweitzer, every person carries his or her own doctor inside, and we're our best when we give the doctor inside a chance to work. That quote generalizes an undeniable fact about the human body, that its intelligent design makes it innately equipped to fight disease head-on with skills and training that are on par with a super soldier. It may not be impervious, but if our lives were a movie, our immune systems would be Captain America, and viral threats would be the hundreds of lame duck enemies he barrels through with relative ease. Germs are everywhere. They are. There's no getting around that, but we can and we do win the fight against millions of them every day. Even against a more cunning villain, the powers, if you will, exhibited by the human immune system are not to be underestimated. Knowing it has been said is half the battle, so maybe a better understanding of immune function and its interconnectivity with the rest of the body and your choices is paramount to facilitating the strongest possible immune system. I used this analogy a few months ago in a newsletter, but if you think of a watch, without knowledge of its intelligent design, we might assume that a watch found on the beach was created by a series of random events. Perhaps millions of interactions with sand washed ashore created small marks at equal intervals 12 times around a seashell formed into a circle. And hardened pieces of seaweed formed hands that pointed at different intervals and moved wherever struck by an ocean breeze or something along those lines. But we know that a watch is carefully and smartly crafted. It's a device made by a watchmaker, and only rarely does a watch not earn our trust in its continual and optimal function. The human body deserves infinitely more credit and trust for its intelligent design. So to lack faith in its function is to, quite frankly, just to misunderstand its brilliance. It's not hyperbole to call the human body the greatest design ever. We can have faith in the body and seek to support it so as to optimize it. Frankly, our immune systems operate magnificently without much need of our input consciously. We were given by our Creator very little control over the function of the body. So we have a conscious role to play, but I think it's important to remember that most of what shapes health is the integrity of the assembly line that is the body. Your immune system, for instance, is like a super navy with stations set up everywhere to alert of foreign invaders like coronaviruses. The immune system is innately built with a catalog of all the types of cells that should be there and the capability to recognize that when something like COVID shows up, it shouldn't be there. The defense kicks in immediately, swarming the virus and quarantining it. Then the second line of defense comes in once the admiral up in the brain is made aware of the significance of the threat, and then the threat is essentially squashed like a bug. That's why, though you are encountering millions of germs all the time, rarely do you get sick. The coronavirus is certainly aggressive, but you should see the immune system in action. Its ability to adapt and react is practically unfathomable to our conscious minds. The immune system is basically the most smoothly run business in human lore. And like any uber successful enterprise, it vitally depends on proper communication within its network. Here's how important that connectivity is. Let's say your body maintains a grid-like system, such as in a game of Battleship. The goal of the immune system is to protect, and that protection is dependent upon proper communication between the admiral in the brain and the fleet, your immune system, throughout the rest of the body. Disrupted communication in any circumstance will yield undesirable outcomes, but especially so in the human body when the immune system's combat instructions from the brain are interfered with. If the brain commands an attack on an infection in quadrant B, as in boy, 6, but an inaccurate coordinate comes through the nerve network, what happens is potentially autoimmunity. In part, autoimmune conditions result from this distorted communication. B6 was the command, but if communication is distorted, whether that be E6 to the spinal cord, as is the case with MS, D6 in the digestive tract, which is the case with Crohn's disease, P6 in the pancreas, as with type 1 diabetes, or G6 with the joints, like with rheumatoid arthritis, then something's happened that fundamentally would not have happened if there had been proper communication. The lines of communication in the body are your nerves, the hub of the system for which is the brainstem, an organ whose unique surrounding anatomy makes it vulnerable to a vulnerable point for communication disruption. Simple, non-invasive processes like upper cervical chiropractic identify and correct that disruption, strengthening the immune system. You can check out our website, tryoutuppercervical.com, for more information on that. So partly our role is to recognize what such processes like upper cervical chiropractic bring to the table. Traditionalists within the medical field just don't get that. It's too much of a departure from their philosophy. They've been convinced that there really isn't much, there's not a known cause for autoimmunity, and that the only solution is to chemically suppress the immune system so it will stop attacking the body it's designed to protect. It's a perspective thing, not an education thing. The allopathic mindset is, with all due respect to it, because it has its place. I think it's pretty much becoming the flat earth of healthcare. The nerve system is connected to everything. That's the way that the body was designed. The entire organic system in the body is connected. The human body is a well-oiled machine, the most intricately and intelligently designed assembly line in the history of mankind, replenishing damaged cells with incredible efficiency. Cuts, for example, healing in 2 weeks. Broken bones mending in 6 weeks. Nerves returning to relative normalcy in 4 months post-injury. It creates new cells via the food we eat within minutes, and constantly seeks to maintain for us a body-wide even keel. That's the nature of the human body assembly line. It's amazing. And like any assembly line, if you mess with one part, the whole will suffer. So also foundational to our part in optimizing the immune system is eating constructively, while avoiding treats packed with processed sugar that depress the immune system. Remaining more than adequately hydrated, along with regular exercise and exposure to the sun, which is the most easily acquired immune boost, these are major factors too. And just as important are our mindsets toward health, healing, and fighting disease. No different than making money or searching for love. A focus on a lack only hurts the ability to earn or find it. If our time is spent right now on sensationalist media or politics and other things that we don't have a lot of control over, if any control over, then we're steering in the direction of despair and poor health, and that further weakens our natural defenses if we're not paying attention to these other factors mentioned. Taking responsibility for our mindsets, seeking wisdom and understanding of immunity, and then trusting our God-given innate ability to adapt completely alters the narrative. It alters our individual courses too, and it allows us to be confident that the laws of life will eclipse the theories about disease. So in closing, thank you for your time, of course. But I want to close with a Martin Luther King Jr. quote. He once said that darkness can't drive out darkness. Only light can do that. To paraphrase what came next in his speech, in closing, fear can't drive out fear. Only hope can do that. So remember, everything is connected, and stay empowered.